With $925 million in financing to date, two-year-old Chinese bike-sharing company Mobike plans on accelerating its pace of global expansion beyond its Shanghai origins and dozens of cities across China into 200 cities by the end of this year. No, don't leave. This is very interesting. Coupling good old-fashioned wheel power with the technology infrastructure of Internet of Things networks and innovations in AI and intelligent hardware, our next guest hopes to create the competitive advantage to capture share of a projected $60 billion market by 2021. Here to discuss plans to win in the battle of the bike-sharing startups. Didn't think that was a thing, but it is. Please welcome Mobike co-founder and CEO Davis Wang with Time Inc.'s executive editor for international, Clay Chandler.
Thanks, Andrew. Hello, everybody, and thank you. I'm going to warn you in advance here that this is a very short segment. We're going to move really fast. We may not have time to get to your questions. If not, I apologize, but we're going to try to. It's a great subject, and we have very limited time. Delighted to have Davis Wang here with us. This is actually a rare opportunity to hear directly from a tech rock star in China. So, Davis, thanks so much for being with us. You know, bike sharing is an idea that in various forms in the US we've been familiar with since, I don't know, at least 2005 or so. Denver, just up the road here, was one of the innovators in coming up with a community-run bike sharing service. But I'm just curious how many people are familiar with bike sharing and what it looks like in China. How many people here have been to China in the last, say, year? Pretty good. This is a switched-on crowd. Anybody that's actually tried one of these bikes? Not yet. And I'll bet part of the reason for that is that these things are an absolutely new phenomenon in China. And if you've been to a Chinese city recently, and have gone regularly, I mean, I'm there all the time, these things have just like sprung up like mushrooms after a rain. It's been literally in the last 6 months. Suddenly, if you go to Guangzhou, you go to Shanghai, you go to Beijing, the streets are just filled with these brightly colored bikes, including bikes from Mobike, which you can recognize because they are, as you can see on Davis's shirt here, bright orange. So, Davis, I wonder if you could tell us, just to begin with a little bit, give us some context about how fast bike sharing has come on, because from my perspective, it's just come out of nowhere at colossal scale. So tell us some of the dimensions of how extensive bike sharing is and how big you are.
Okay, so back to 2 years ago, when we are trying to build a company, and we realized that there are two major social problems in the big cities in China, probably worldwide. So one is the congestion. The second one is air quality in China, the major cities. And then we thought about that. So what about we trying to create a product and to encourage people to use bikes every day, and so that we can bring back to people's daily life. And then we create Mobike. So if you look at the name of Mobike, it's easily to be understand that it's a combination of mobile plus bike, which means when we analyze the 800 cities traditional public bike sharing program, we realized that the dock and the station is going to be a limitation for people to use bicycles. And then we thought about that. So what about we remove docks, we remove stations, so that people can use bicycle easily and convenient and with affordable price, so that we create the company called Mobike. And then, so starting from April 22nd last year, that day is the Earth Day, so we launched Mobike in Shanghai. And right now, just in 15 months, and we are presenting in more than 150 cities. So we got more than 100 million users right now, and we deployed 6 million connected bikes worldwide. And if you get a daily...
Just say that again. Registered users, how many?
It's more than 100 million.
100 million. How many bikes?
More than 6 million connected bikes.
6 million connected bikes.
Yeah, and if you look at the daily ridership, and we are more than 20 million rides per day, and that number even 3x bigger than Uber global trips.
Okay, so some of you get Alan's CEO Daily. I hope all of you do. Some of you may have noticed sort of piggyback on Saturdays and write specifically about China. I wrote a little bit about bike sharing in China in the last newsletter. But one of the statistics that just amazed me was that, doing a little research, the National Association of City Transportation Safety Officials recently estimated, they were quite proud of it actually, that the number of bike-sharing trips taken per year in the United States, 28 million. They were delighted at how fast this was growing in like 60 cities. How does that compare to your numbers?
So right now we are transporting more than 20 million people per day.
20 million per day, and on a good day, could be as high as.
Yeah.
So China's doing this on a scale that we do in the United States in a day. And
not only in China. So we are also presenting in Singapore, in Manchester, and also Sapporo in Japan.
But so you're in 150 cities right now, and of the cities...
Including 5 from international.
Yeah, 5 outside of China.
145 domestically in China.
And your goal is to be in how many cities by the end of the year? Is this 200?
So by to January this year, so we are thinking to expand to 100 cities by end of this year. But by end of June, we just overachieved this target. And then we revisit the target, and we are thinking to reach more than 200 cities by end of this year.
Okay, so here's my question. The US, Europe has been doing bike sharing much longer than China. Really, this is a phenomenon that has happened within 2 years in China, honestly, because there are like 30 bike sharing companies in China. You and OFO are kind of the two big ones. But you're each doing 25 million or so a day. How does that happen? How is it that in China you can scale up so fast, and it's taken us in the US ages to do what China does in a day? And don't tell me it's just because China has more people. We know that.
Of course not.
It can't account for that magnitude of scale difference.
Yeah. So we're trying to compare with between mobile and the station-based bike sharing program. So if you look at the station-based one, it's more like a desktop PC. When you are trying to access internet, we are trying to do some calculation work, you have to go to a specific location to use that desktop PC. Right. So we are more like smartphone, which means you can use mobile anytime, anywhere. When you trying to use it, just use it. Right. And when trying to return the bag, just return the bag in the right location along the street. So we provide a super convenient solution for people, and we provide a super affordable price. So for example, in China, we charge people with 15 cents in US for 30 minutes. It's even 1/3 of the subway price. So with this price, people, they are not going to worry about how much money they are going to spend on mobile. And the most important thing is that the technology helps a lot for mobile. So people see the dockless, people see stationless, but we have a lot of technology inside
in the smart lock.
Yeah, the smart lock, and also the bicycle things. And in case if you didn't see mobile, and this is the special design, so we reinvent the bicycle. Actually, this year is a 200 years anniversary for bicycle. But this one,
right,
so,
really?
yeah, so for example, so you didn't see chain. It's not a chain driven. So without chain, I'm not going to spend like tens of thousands of people to maintain that bag. Yeah. And also we have IoT technology. We have SIM card inside the lock. Yeah. And then, so once you have GPS inside the lock, so that you can track the location of every bag. And problem is that once you have GPS, you have IoT, you have SIM card, you will need a battery. So imagine that you got 6 million Connect bags in 150 cities. And you just can't afford to recharge that battery every 3 days. So that we have a patent. So when people pedaling the bike, the battery has been automatically charged. And then that way we just create a automatically running transportation system in every city we operate. So that's the key.
Because it's a little bit hard to see on Davis's iPad how these things work, some of you may have noticed, they have actually brought over about, what, 15 or so of these bikes. They're parked right outside, bright orange. You can't miss them. You can just go to the App Store or download the app, and these things you'll be able to use. You can drop them anywhere. So they're different than the local Aspen city bike. So this docking station is one, I think, fundamental difference and accounts for some of this rapid scale that we discussed. I think also, just my own view, is that the fundamental difference is that China, ironically, has embraced a more capitalist, market-driven approach to bike sharing than the United States. In the United States, all the various 60 or so cities that are involved in major bike sharing programs are either led by the cities or they are public-private partnerships. Even City, which is the most kind of purely private of the US versions, is done in very close cooperation with the New York metropolitan government. And no surprise, a lot of these cities are now looking at your model and the scale and the size and are saying, oh my God, we're going to get Ubered by Chinese bike-sharing companies, and they're going to wipe us out, and are moving very quickly to put regulations in place to stop you from being able to roll these things out at scale. So what do you say to someone who's who lives in one of these cities and says, oh gosh, I don't want Chinese companies steamrolling the infrastructure that the city has already paid with its tax dollars for?
So let me try to share some numbers. Right now, we achieved in China. So normally, when people talk about the transportation, people talk the subway, the bus, taxi, and even some station-based public bike sharing. So right now, we are transporting more people than taxi in China, in many cities. And in some cities, so for example, in Chengdu, so we are transporting more people than subway. So which means mobike is becoming one of the major transportation platforms in most of the cities we operate. And people is really benefit from the freedom provided by mobike. And then, so we are trying to do, we are aiming to do good things for the people who use mobike, and so that people can move around the city. And we are aiming to do some good things for the local community. And we are also trying to help on the congestion. So the last year, this year we receive a reward from WWF in China. The thing is that if you look at the total kilometers traveled during the past year, it has been 2.5 billion kilometers. All mobikers, they use mobike. And then this 2.5 billion kilometers means we are reduce the carbon emission for 600,000 tons. That translating to 170,000 cars. So which means we just equals to take 170,000 cars off the road for 1 year.
Right.
So which means we are doing good things for the city. And as for the regulations, I think there must be some way to find out a solution to work with the local councils and work with the local government, because we are doing good things for the city.
So one of the things that is a typical objection that people raise about the Chinese model that's dockless and doesn't have a bike station is that, oh, well, people can drop these bikes anywhere. That's an eyesore. They clutter public property. They clog the streets. And it is true, if you go to the streets of Chinese cities, people do. These bikes kind of pile up at certain places. We were talking about this a little earlier, but Beijing is nice. It's flat. You want to get from point to point. It's pretty easy to distribute the bikes around, and there are always going to be people that want to pick them up where people have dropped them. But in a city like Chongqing or Hong Kong, where I live, very hilly. I would love to ride a mobike downhill from the mid-levels to Central to my job at the IFC building, but I'm not sure I would want to get on that bike and pedal back up the hill in the Hong Kong heat to do it again. So my suspicion is all these bikes are going to sort of pile up in certain spots depending on the terrain of the city itself. But you mentioned some interesting things that you're doing with technology.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Hongbao and how that can nudge people to help you.
Yeah. So when people see some bikes pile up, it refers to other color bikes. It's not mobike. So some
other color bikes. I like that.
Some other color bikes.
They won't be named.
They just trying to use the cheap bike with likely $40 in US, and then just put one mechanical lock on it and just dump it in the street.
Right.
So if I know there's a session it's going to be held by Steve from Qualcomm, and that way I don't think Steve is going to agree with that way, just to put some mechanical lock on the street. So mobike is doing different way. So because we remove the dock, we remove the station, in the meantime, we need to track every bike's move. So that's why we put the sensors, we put SIM card, we put the GPS on that bike. And then we also develop a real name system. So people need to register on mobike, and then they need to pay the deposit. So with the location, we can tell the location of each bike, and with the real name person, so when they use the Mobike's duration, the origin and destination, so that we can match it. And then we also create a credit system. So which means when people use, so we're trying to reward the good behavior for people.
So you can incentivize people by putting money into their account to pick a bike up here and drop it off.
Right. You know, in China, there's a famous Hongbao thing.
Hongbao, the red packet.
So if there's a bike, it's putting in the wrong location, and then we are going to put Hongbao on the app, and people is going to rebalance the bag on top of us.
David, we've only scratched the surface of this subject. This is fascinating, and Mobike coming soon to a city near you, I suspect. We would love to be able to get in deeper to the subject of Chinese technology, but 15 minutes is not nearly enough time to do it. We hope you'll come back again, and we hope everyone here will go out and get on the bikes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Oops. Sounds great.
Thank you.